guys, welcome back to another episode. So after Julia's episode, I have Chase with me today. Chase is also one of the members in Dream English Jerba. Not to say he's like the one handling everything with Julia. He's not only a teacher or consultant, he's like all combined. We'll get to know him more, but before starting to tell you what are we going to see, I want him to introduce himself so that you guys get to know him best. And then we're going to tackle our subject. So, welcome, Chase. Thank you for being with me already.
Yeah, thank you, Noor. Thank you. Nice to be with all of you today. My name is Chase. I am originally from the States, from America. I'm also from the state of Alabama, like Julia.
She said Florida earlier.
Okay.
She said Alabama, Florida, but people don't know much Alabama. So usually she says Florida. So exactly, I don't know if it's the same thing with you.
Yeah, if they know about Alabama, it's usually just because of a movie or a song.
Yes.
We have a famous movie, famous song in Alabama. And anyways, I have lived in Tunisia now for 4 going on 5 years. I'm here with my wife and my 2 kids. My wife's not Julia, although some people think they look alike. But Julia's happily married and I'm happily married, just not to each other. I have 2 kids, Sanders and Nora, and my wife's name is Nicole.
My God bless them.
Yeah, thank you. We enjoy living here in Jerba. I guess a little bit more about me. I love anything in the outdoors, and I think generally all of my hobbies, maybe outside of reading, take place in the outdoors. So in the States, that looked a lot like camping, maybe hunting, fishing. Here in Tunisia, it looks a lot more like going to the beach. I mean, Jerba, it's just it's a great place for that. Going down to the mountains, the desert in southern Tunisia, those are some of my absolute favorite things. I hope, for example, my parents are planning to visit next month, and
amazing.
I'm extremely excited to take them down to the desert. It's just we don't have anything like it in America.
It's like a camp?
Or even just going for the day. Even just going for the day. We just don't have anything like that in America. Or if we do, it's very, very far from the eastern U.S. So, it's very neat. And we've been really fortunate. We've had a lot of great friends here in Jerba. Met our neighbors, made some friends, and I feel like I have 2 homes really now, both here in Jerba and in the States.
That's awesome, to be honest, and I guess that's already a privilege because not
everybody. That's exactly There's a lot of things going on in the world today where some people they don't even have one home, But to feel like I belong, at least in part, to a couple different places is special. I don't take it for granted.
True. I said with Julia last time that we're going to record an episode about culture and kind of like the cultural shock between America and Tunisia.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I told her that it would be amazing to have one episode with you and one episode with Chase to see like the differences. Especially that she's a female and you're a male. I guess even the experience may be a bit different. Like, of course, there would be like the huge picture, like the big picture. For sure, you guys are alike. But some details, I don't think they will be the same.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So it's a great idea for another episode, which I hope you guys get to listen to it soon. But other than that, I would like to say one more time, welcome to your second home. And I'm really glad that I get to meet you guys. Not only you have the privilege, but at the same time, I guess even your clients, me, or any other person who knows you, I guess it would be also a privilege to know like a native speaker and an American to get to exchange the culture, exchange the language, to talk more about life, I guess, the differences between there and here and all of that. So we get to learn a lot from each other. This is something...
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is something that I love, and not everybody else also has this privilege. So for me, it's also kind of a positive part of my life is to know people who live here and who love to live here. And at the same time, I get to discover the city that I always studied about, and I have grown up listening to their music and watching their movies. I get to see the native people, and they get to tell me if what I was seeing is right
reality
or wrong,
versus
or
fiction and fact fiction.
It's it's always hard to believe that that's reality or not reality.
Yeah.
So this is also something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I have said, we're going to talk about this one more time. It's going to be an amazing topic, I guess, and we'll have a lot to yap about.
Yeah.
But for now, let's talk a little bit about our lesson. So what's our lessons going to be about?
Yeah, so today I just wanted to give, I think we'll call this episode 10 English Tips that Tunisians Need to Hear. And that's because even when I think about myself as an Arabic speaker, I make some mistakes that maybe I just make them occasionally, once every day or week. Then there's other mistakes that I repeat the same mistake over and over and over again. And maybe it's that nobody has corrected me, and I think that's what's correct.
Yes.
Or maybe it's just that I accidentally do it every time. So maybe I know or maybe I don't, but in the reality, that's a systematic error. It's happening over and over again. And maybe if I fixed, let's just say, 5 systematic errors that I'm doing every day, multiple times a day in Arabic, then I might actually, improve my level a lot, just from that one, from focusing on those few things. It's not like I need to change 50 things. I might just need to change 5. And so that's what I've sort of prepared just to share about today, are some really common, systematic, normal errors that our Tunisian clients, as Arabic speakers, as a lot of them as well, French speakers, deal with. So the first 5 are more pronunciation in nature, and then the second 5 grammar. So the first one that I wanted to share is the I sound. So I know that a vowel that's more often used in French and Arabic is the E sound, not the I. So common examples would be, I don't know, can you think of one off the top of your head, Noor, that maybe uses that I sound in English, whereas French or Arabic would use the E?
I guess it's also probably the fact that when writing, it's not the same as speaking.
Yes,
it's also another issue for people.
That's extremely
especially
challenging,
when you love French. I don't know. I feel like it's about practice, but for now, I don't have any example in mind.
So
but it's
couple,
very common.
Yeah, a couple words would be, like, one would be fish. So that's fish, not fish.
Oh yeah, a lot of French people say that.
Another one is wish. So I wish that I could travel to this place or this place. Not I wish.
It's like a French accent, literally.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, in many ways, that a lot of Tunisians speak French as well. I mean, it's a net gain. It helps you even in your English speaking ability.
Yes.
But it comes with a little bit of a cost, I guess, and that is that some things are different between French and English, and it can be hard to change once you've,
even the accent or how you think about the idea, and you want to translate it to English.
Yeah, so that's the first one. There's a lot more that I could say about that.
Yeah.
Just focusing on the I sound and paying attention to that, because some words, they depend on it. 2 more would be hit, like to hit something. Yes. So I will hit the wall, like that. Or heat. Heat, not heat, but heat, like khana, like the heat you need to heat a room in the winter time. Or the summer, the heat was very high. Yeah. So it can change the meaning of the word altogether. Not just because if you say fish, I know what you mean there, but if you say heat, well then I'm thinking khana, but maybe what you meant was to hit. Yeah. The second one are consonant clusters. That's what we call those. And I know that once I start explaining this, you'll know what I'm talking about, and you say, well, that's challenging. It's when we have just lots of consonants together with no vowel sound in between. Yeah. And I know that I think especially in standard Arabic, there tends to be a lot more vowel sounds between consonants and less in Derja. But one example, a phrase that has a lot of consonant clusters is next spring. So not next, next. That's like a 2 or 3 syllable, but it's next. It's 1 syllable, next. Yeah. Spring. That's also a 1 syllable word, not spring. Yeah. And we'll get to the R in a second. Yeah. But those consonant clusters, if you can just kind of practice them, and again, an opportunity to practice something like that. That could be a specific goal you might have here at Dream English Jerba, but it just takes time and practice and just drawing attention to it, because I think, what's the phrase we say? I mean, what you focus on is going to grow and improve. And, you know, what you give your kind of your hand to, your time and energy and effort will improve. And
practice makes perfect.
Practice makes perfect. Yeah. The next thing would be just the R sound and how it differs between English and Arabic.
Yes.
I know in Arabic I think it's ra.
Yeah.
I have a hard time rolling the R. And that's actually a lot of Americans are familiar with like the R being rolled from Spanish, and we find it very difficult. But then the opposite's also true, where we don't roll the R, and so when you're trying to speak English, not rolling the R. So a word or two words like car, park. Where can I park the car? It's just the R. It's not car, park.
Yeah, a lot of people do that actually, and you feel the Tunisian accent just because of the ra and the r. And I think this is why we have accents like Tunisian accent, French accent, because they get to pronounce with what they know, not what they are supposed to pronounce.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a language learning methodology out there that basically says that the first, I forget whether it's 25 or 75, however many hours in the beginning, you shouldn't speak at all. You should just listen, because that's basically, that's the way a baby starts learning language, right? Is they're only listening, they're taking in, they're starting to observe these different sounds that they don't have in their sort of repertoire, but that if they try right away to start saying them, they're going to just use their own own way of doing it. So, yeah. Fourth one, this comes from French. I think again we have French to thank for many things, but this is one thing that we can blame on French, and that is learning and to pronounce the S at the end of words. I know that we always joke that in French, it's just like you sort of mumble the first couple syllables and then just drop the last one or two. That's what we native English speakers kind of think about French. And in some ways, I think, what do they say, there's a little bit of truth to every lie or to every joke maybe. In some ways that is very true about French. You often leave off the end of words, including when there's
like
an S.
The IES of the plural, or sometimes like even the whole word. You just pronounce like 3 or 4 alphabets, and the rest are just like hanging in there.
Yeah. So what would be like? What's a French word that ends in S but that you don't pronounce that last S?
Souris, which is mice, like mice, mouse, and mice.
Yeah.
Souris it's exactly the same thing.
Okay. Exactly. Yeah. So, but again, in English though, we're always going to say that S if it's part of a plural, and also when it's part of the third person singular present tense verbs. So like he runs in the park. We don't say he run in the park. That's something I work with a lot of clients. We target that specific, this systematic error. She buys pasta every week from the grocery store. Not she buy pasta every week from the grocery store, because you've been taught to kind of internally, just remove that S. And in plurals, plural words, as you said. So again, it's words, sports, and on.
I have seen this also with a student that I used to teach. She's a little girl, but she lives in France. She's Tunisian, but she lives in France, and she started like learning English with me. And I really had a hard time trying to tell her that you have to pronounce the H, you have to pronounce the S. These are two things that I'm struggling with. It's like every time it's the same mistake all over again. Like, I guess. And
again, once she improves those or changes those one or two things, she removes a lot of errors. It's kind of like we call that in English like low hanging fruit. Like if a tree that's full of fruit, there's this low hanging fruit. It's right there. All you got to do is reach up and grab it, and then once you grab it, you have it. It's not hard to reach. It's very like a little bit of work and a lot of reward. And
it's about practice, I guess. It's more than anything else. And you have to remind yourself constantly that you're not talking or writing French. You're literally talking English.
Mhm.
So you have to forget about what you know about the other language and
Yeah.
focus on what you have now on your plate.
Definitely. Okay, and you gave another good one too, the H. That's
Yeah,
one
the
I didn't
H.
include today, but that's another thing that is a common error. The last thing under pronunciation is the past tense regular verbs, ones that end in ed.
Yeah.
So, as you know, English is a little bit notorious for irregular verbs, and those are challenging, in and of themselves. But
Yeah.
focusing on the regular verbs, in terms of writing or reading, it's easy, but in terms
Yeah.
of pronunciation, they're actually more challenging than the irregular verbs.
Yes.
And so, yeah, verbs that are regular verbs that are in the past tense. For example, wanted. I wanted to, eat malfouf for lunch, for example.
Or I grabbed my bag.
I grabbed my bag.
But
yeah.
also there is the issue of pronunciation. Sometimes people also make the accent on there. It's
Mhm.
like grab it.
Exactly, yeah. So there's
Hang it.
3 ways that ed, it's written the same every time, but there's 3 ways that the regular ed verbs can end in English, and that is the id sound, that's what most people want to do for all of them, and that is
Yeah.
exactly what you just said. We say grabbed, not grabbed,
Yeah.
but we do in some circumstances. We say I wanted, I needed, and the verbs the verbs that end in T or D, those are the ones that we're gonna pronounce id at the end. So the 2 most common ones are need, so need ends in D, and we're gonna say the id on the end. Want ends in T, so again those 2 letters, D and T, we're gonna say the id on the end. So I wanted or I needed. Another way that those verbs can end are the ones like you just said, grabbed. And that's not an id, that's just a d sound.
Yes, exactly.
And so we do that when it's a voiced consonant at the end. So if I say the verb to grab, b, and you can't see me right now, but I'm
Yes.
holding my throat.
Yeah.
And when I say that b
You feel it.
sound, I feel it in my throat. It's a voiced consonant. And when we have a voiced consonant, it's just the d sound. So another one would be like the sound that the b makes, the nahla. The bee makes the buzz sounds. We say buzz.
Yes.
So the bee buzzed next to my ear. Next to my ear.
Yeah, that's true. You can
Yeah.
hear.
And the last one is when it's like we just change it all together and we say it with a T sound. So let's see. Trying to think. Do you have an example of
Learned. Learned.
I
There's
learned.
both.
Yeah, British English they say
Yeah,
learned,
learned,
and they actually
and
spell
then-
it with a T.
Yeah.
But in English we'd say I learned, and
Most
that would be
people
just
write
the
it
duh
with T.
sound.
Well, people I know at least. I
yeah.
feel like they always feel like that one is easier.
Yeah, maybe that's why
It's
people.
easier, yeah.
And I know too. I think you lean a little bit more towards the British English here in Tunisia, right? In terms of your curriculum, maybe in schools. Well, maybe we should leave that for Khalil. I know that's upcoming on another episode.
He's going to talk about
okay,
it.
yeah.
But for my own experience, I myself with a lot of friends that I know that are good,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like they speak very well. Most of them are American because we grew up, literally we grew up listening to a lot of American
Mhm.
songs and watching a lot of American movies.
Yeah.
Yes, we were so into British culture and the British accent, and I myself.
Oh,
used
we're
to
into the
love
British culture and
Yeah.
accent. Yeah, as Americans, yeah.
Yeah, I really, really used to love British accent. I still love it till this day, but it's
Mhm.
very hard
Yeah.
to speak that. So I was like, I'm keeping that too. It's
Yeah.
people I cannot do that. But yeah, I guess
So-
here it's more American than British. But of course, let's not generalize. But most people are mostly toward English, American
In
accent
terms of at least
because it's way
media,
easier.
yeah, lots of media produced with the American accent.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's the last ed verb though, like we were kind of just talking about, is when there's when a verb ends in an unvoiced consonant. So it's not voiced in your throat; it's
Yeah.
just in your mouth. So for example, I thought of the verb to ask. When I make the k sound, that's only happening in my mouth. There's no vibration happening in my throat. That's an unvoiced consonant. And when it's an unvoiced consonant like that, then the ending is t with the t sound. So we have
Yeah.
id, I wanted. We have d, I grabbed my bag from the couch. And the last one is the t sound, and that's I asked you for a dinar because I left my wallet at home, for example. All right, so moving on from pronunciation, grammar. The auxiliary do. That's something that I know is very challenging. I think both in French and Arabic, it's not present, so you kind of don't have as much of a context. Yeah. It has to be learned. You don't have a context for understanding. So things, common mistakes might sound like you like coffee, when it should be do you like coffee. When you went to London, when it should be when did you go to London? When did you go to London?
True.
Yeah, have you found this as a challenge as someone who's learned English at a really high level, but is this something you still struggle with some?
I don't think so, but when I used to be younger, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, when I was in high school, probably.
Yeah. Okay, another thing, so this is tip number 7, but the second one within grammar. I think, maybe you can tell me, Noor, are there any other languages in the world other than English that put the adjective before the noun? So we would say the purple ball, or we'd say the white wall, not hate the love you. I think Spanish, I think French, I think Arabic, every other language that I've been a little bit exposed to seems to put the noun and then the adjective.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Yeah, so just naturally this is, again, because the languages that most Tunisians speak, you guys do the noun and the adjective. Yeah. So sometimes, in fact, yesterday I used the example, the ball purple. That was something I heard yesterday, but we say the purple ball.
Or the ball is purple.
The ball, exactly. The ball is purple.
You need the verb. You cannot. Mm-hmm. You cannot just make it that way.
Yep, that's right. Another thing, and this is maybe this will encourage you to learn and keep improving your English. Although if you're listening to this, then I think you're already well aware that English, we do not have gender-specific nouns. You don't have to memorize that tawla is mu'annith. You know,
True.
And then there's some exceptions like dar that don't end in the closed T, but yet they're mu'annith as well.
Yeah.
You know, so what I commonly hear though is, let's use this example right here on the floor where we're recording today. There's a rug, a zarbiyya. I've heard a lot of people refer to it as, oh, but she's so beautiful, you know, just look at the blues and she's worth a lot, you know, something like that. Yeah. But it should be it, you know, oh, it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
It's not, the rug is not feminine, it's not masculine, it's just it. Any non-human thing usually is going to be it.
Yeah, and I guess this is kind of a common mistake because we got so used to differentiating a little bit between the not feminine, like something that's a she and another thing is a he. Mm-hmm. So that when you're now speaking English or writing English, it's a little bit, it takes you a little...
It's habit, yeah.
Yeah, it's a habit. It takes a little time to be like, oh, okay, so is this an object or is this a person or is this an animal or...
Yeah, because there are, like everything, there are even some exceptions, you know, where...
there are,
for example, boats, we often refer to boats as she. Like the names of boats. Usually you name boats, like you give them names of women, not names of men, and it's referred to as it's referred to as a she a lot of times.
Yeah.
Not in every circumstance, but maybe there's exceptions. The next one, tip number 9, uncountable nouns. So, you know, these are things that are, again, like uncountable. The common example is hair. So hair, I would say, he cut my hair today, not he cut my hairs.
Yeah.
That would be, you know, one example. Another would be information. We don't say informations. We just say...
That's very common. Because in French, we say information. And it ends with S.
Yeah, that was something I learned in preparing for this podcast. I did, you know, a little bit of preparation, and I didn't know that. I didn't know, because I've always heard information. We talked earlier about how the S isn't pronounced at the end of words, and in French, a lot of words. I didn't know that every time I've said information in the last 4 years that that word has an S at the end of it. So
Yeah.
that was news to me.
That's another thing that I still see till this day, even with like adults.
Hmm.
You see it all the time, and I hate it when I hear it.
Yeah.
It's so triggering. Like, this is not French. Even in French, you don't even pronounce it. So why now in English?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Yeah, and so I said the phrase, that's news to me. Another word is news. We generally refer to the news as that's a singular thing.
Yes.
You know, have you watched the news today?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Have you read the news, meaning just one thing?
True.
Luggage, advice, those are a couple more things. And speaking of advice, I think that is an example of my last tip, and that is to study the false friends and unreliable friends between French and English. And advice is one of those, that the meaning of it in English is a little bit different than the meaning of it in French. And I won't elaborate on that much because I know that there's another episode that's already been recorded and that I encourage everyone to go listen to with Julia, where she talks about these false and unreliable friends. So that's my 10 tips. I'll give you one more just here at the end, and that it's more of an encouragement than a tip, and that is that you can do it. Don't give up. You Tunisians you seem to have just a knack for learning languages. Like a lot of Tunisians, I mean, at least 2, 3, 4 languages, it's just really amazing,
Yeah.
especially for me. That was one thing that really, that I wanted to, I mean, I guess you could say that was part of a motivation in even moving to Tunisia in the first place. It's just this idea that I've grown up my whole life speaking English only.
Yeah.
And there's just so much more to be learned and experienced and stuff, but you Tunisians you're good at learning languages and stuff, and so you can learn English as well. You can keep improving your English. Don't let it intimidate you. Don't let the irregular verbs intimidate you, or the fact that, unlike Arabic and mostly French, what you see on paper is, you can't necessarily read it.
Yes.
There's a lot of pronunciation is extremely difficult from the written word or written words. Don't let it discourage you. And as always, if we can help you on your English learning journey, helping you reach whatever your goal is here at Dream English Gerba, then we're happy to do so.
Thank you so much, Chase, for being here. Thank you for all these tips and tricks that you have shared with us today. I want to remind you guys that you can contact us on Instagram, and if you have anything you want to listen to, any tips you want to hear, or anything we can help you with about grammar or pronunciation or whatsoever, we can have kind of a sneak peek about anything that you want to ask us. But I want to let you know that you can contact Dream English Gerba to have your own consulting sessions. I guess the first session is free, right?
That's right, our initial consultation. You can come and we're just going to talk together. We'll talk some English, especially if we need to. We'll talk in Arabic as well. And just get an idea of, why are you coming to us today? What goals do you have? How can we help you reach them? And after you leave that first session, that initial consultation, we'll send you a customized, personalized English plan. And that is kind of what we would suggest, for you to reach those stated goals.
Yeah, and then you guys will start your sessions with one of the professors that are here. One more thing is that I guess you guys even make online sessions, even for people who are not in Gerba.
Occasionally we like to, I like to say that we'll accept online clients kind of if it's a win-win. Typically, what does that mean for us? It means that if a client is available, at a time that we're available. So for example, sometimes we have sessions later in the evening. Nobody likes to have sessions or work, later in the evening. I think most of us prefer to work during the day, especially those of us with families. But for in-person clients, we'll do that. A lot of times, if we accept an online client, it won't be one that's at a very inconvenient time for us. And likewise, oftentimes online clients need to be a little bit higher in their English level, even B1. But if it's A2, or even if the person is A2 level, or especially A1, English, really just starting out, those are very difficult to do online, and I'd instead encourage them to seek out maybe like a more traditional information center near them, wherever they live. Face to face, and I think that'll be a more fruitful start for them.
Yeah, true. And we're here, guys, to make some content about English, so you can also try to rely a little bit on our episodes and the upcoming ones. Probably you can have new ideas, probably know more information that you know already, or maybe you've been doing a mistake that we have mentioned today, or we're going to
let us
mention
know
in the
about it if you
future.
found something helpful.
Yeah, so you're gonna find out a lot of information that you don't know about, which is also great to listen to English. Like the side talking, it's also great to listen so that you get used to it.
Yeah, that's something we encourage all of our clients with is, if you're coming once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week for an hour and a half session, you'll improve, and that's great. But you just have to, the more you can integrate English into your daily life as you're, just riding in the car, listening to this podcast or whatever else, it's going to help you so much. You need exposure. The more, the better. Written, spoken, heard, all of it.
Yeah, true. I want to thank my guest today. I want to thank you, Chase, one more time for coming and taking from your time.
Absolutely.
And hopefully to see you in another episode. I say see you because I get to see the person, but you guys will get to listen to a new podcast with Chase, and hopefully we'll get to talk more about Dream English Jarba in another episodes. Thank you guys for listening, and see you in another episode.